Hello and welcome to a new episode of Figments in Time. I'm Lewis,
I'm Val.
and we are the Figments in Time team. And we're headed off to Disney next week,
Yay.
leaving Thursday night, actually. And we'll be there the whole week. Kind of a crazy long vacation. And we've been prepping. We watched Harmonious a number of times. We've watched Enchantment a number of times.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure we should have watched them first.
I think it was good.
I think we've formed some opinions that may or may not be permanent. When you see things in person, it's obviously different. I have theories on music being good in person, even when it's bad in reality. And I also have a lot of other theories about how I've gotten like Beatles albums and McCartney albums, and I've listened to them. The first time I'm like, it's okay. And about the 10th time, I've listened to it. I'm like, I get what they're doing. I understand. And in some respects, that happened with the Enchantment music, that I first listened to it and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the point they're making, because the name of the song is "You Are the Magic." And it points away from the fact that I'm not going there to make magic. I'm going there to enjoy the magic. If I'm going to make magic, I'll do it in the backyard. Yeah. We actually soon, I've already edited. We've got a lightsaber battle. That is awesome.
We're not going to discuss that right
You'll
now.
You'll have to go to the supplemental
Move along
for that. But we can make magic. We can imagine. We can pretend. I kind of go to Disney for magic. I wanted to see more about the people playing.
And I don't necessarily agree with you on the way you feel about that song. So I understand what you mean. I'm going to need to see the entire show in person. We've talked about it before. Having fireworks in video or on pictures, they don't always translate super well. It's really hard to get that moment of what you see with what you hear to sort of click and to move along together. And so I'm anxious to see if being there in person will change the way that I'm feeling about both of those shows, just from what we watched on video. It's going to be interesting to me to kind of tell, because we've talked before. I think you posted this week my views that changed on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And those have changed since the very first time I experienced the attraction and the last time we were on the attraction. So feelings can change once you experience things in a different way. And so I think that I understand what they're going for, in that we are responsible to help make the magic when we're at the parks. I think that we are responsible to help be a part of the experiences that we have there. So I understand where they're going. My issue with the music is more how well it translates, how well it transitions from one song to the next, the way that the music makes me feel. And Happily Ever After was just my favorite soundtrack to any attraction, any experience that we've had at the parks. And so it's been hard for me to kind of let that go so quickly and then try to understand the new process. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I went back and read the lyrics to Happily Ever After, and it's really good. Feel it draw you in, watch the moment unfold, spark a dream that we're meant to follow, set out for a new tomorrow. Every step we take brings a new hope, a new day. Every choice we make. There was nothing in there that was like, get to work, buddy. It's all you. And I think part of the problem was, I had that feeling. And then I had that, it's also supposed to be 50 for the 50th. And that doesn't feel like it. And there's a story here I'm looking at from Inside the Magic. That title is Newcastle Fireworks, 50 years in the making. Disney confirms no end time. They were not 50 years in the making. I didn't feel like there was 50 years of video.
Right.
50 years of things going on.
Well, I think just in our minds, we were sort of picturing, okay, you start with Steamboat Willie or with Oswald and you work your way through the years and you kind of give us this retrospective of the 50th anniversary. And instead, we received a new show, but it is very much a show much like Happily Ever After. That felt like it could be a replacement for Happily Ever After, just on a normal year, not necessarily for the 50th. And so I don't know, like I said, I really need to see it from beginning to end and really get a feel for it. I'm not as hopeful just because I was watching some video this week of people that were sort of interviewing people as they were leaving the park the first night that it showed. And a lot of them were saying the same things we've been concerned about. The music didn't give me the feels. It didn't seem like the transitions were smooth. That it didn't have any of the, original. It didn't take us back in time. So, but I'm still hopeful.
I don't know that there's any Mickey image, any Mickey cartoon, any Mickey sound that kind of evokes that memory. Not so much because any of us watched Steamboat Willie when it was out, right? I'm not that old. Not even that vaguely that old. But it was that they played it in front of so many Disney movies. Mm-hmm. In fact, we've watched Get a Horse so many times because I love that cartoon.
I love Get a Horse.
Best short. And it's the one reason I will actually go into the Pixar Disney theater sometimes.
Well, I can remember when it came out, we all said, like, we were together, like our family was together, and we were all saying, would that not be the coolest thing to show at the Pixar theater because of the way they could make the motions and the water and all of that kind of stuff work along with it. So we were very excited when Get a Horse went into the theater there at the Imagination Pavilion. So yeah.
How excited am I? Wrong arm. I've been wearing my slider on my Apple Watch for DVC for at least a week now. Like, because I don't do a Magic Band. I saw the Magic Band Plus. That's pretty interesting. She's got a new Magic Band.
I am very excited about it. If you can tell, it's Haunted Mansion. It's the new Haunted Mansion band. So I am very excited because I do still wear the Magic Band. I enjoy that greatly. It makes me feel very magical.
It's not that I hate the Magic Band. It's just that I can't stand having two things on my wrist. And if the watch is over here, and I tried putting the Magic Band on the right hand, I would keep smacking the band on the my Apple Watch.
I don't do it anymore. I did originally do that a little bit. So much so that I usually didn't wear my watch when I wore my Magic Band, but now I do.
I'm only having one tan line. That's all there is. On this topic of imagination, it got me thinking about what attractions in Disney World really make you imagine. I mean, we have to work to keep the magic up when we're in line. Everybody, when you're at a party, like at the DVC party, especially with a bunch of people who are really into, Disney, and they're not their first time, they're not feeling their way around.
Right.
You can feel that extra magic because everybody's just vibing, happy. We don't care. We sit in line. We don't care. It's raining. We do this. This is what we do.
This is what we do.
So there's definitely that. There's definitely that part of the magic.
Right.
But I can only think of a few attractions. I've got a couple of pictures of them. One is my Imagination.
Favorite.
And even though the name of it's Imagination, there's really only one or two parts of it that really make you use your imagination. The train scene where you hear the train coming by.
Yes. In this iteration, and I think that the reason why I feel it more in this attraction than you do, that I feel it more throughout this attraction than you do, is because of the original. I had the privilege of being able to see the original with Dreamfinder, and I know Lewis did not. So the entire original show was very much about how we can access our imagination. Because as children, we have imagination. As we grow older, we are taught to not use that imagination as much in general. Most people are taught not to use their imagination as much. And so it was just a really cool show with Dreamfinder and Figment talking about how we should use our imagination more, that we should do things and explore our creativity and find ways to be more imaginative. And so even when I'm in this attraction and it's not the same scenes and it's not the same show and it doesn't really invoke that same feeling of using your imagination, I still get it when I'm there.
I mean, I think it's fun, but the only time I'm really using my imagination is that one scene. And they could certainly do more than that.
And you're talking about the one scene with the train, when the train is running behind you.
And skunk is in a rose and they spray skunk at me. I don't get that. Show me the rose and say, can you imagine it's a skunk? And
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
The only attraction.
Not disagreeing that the rest of the show doesn't really invoke imagination too much. But like I said, it reminds me, especially that end scene that uses so many pieces. You know, when they retooled the show, they took out a lot of that or all of that. And I think I didn't see the show in between the two, but they actually, you know, retooled it a second time and brought in a lot of the pieces from the original show, what they could, because obviously they lost Dreamfinder. They didn't have rights to Dreamfinder anymore. So they couldn't use Dreamfinder. They had to change Figment's color because they lost Figment's color and different things like that. So they did have to you know, reimagine and use the pieces that they could, but they were able like to bring a little bit of that back. So you see those pieces and it reminds you of the original show.
You would think they would learn not to have sponsors. Like maybe they have learned to have sponsors where they can't lose their.
I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so the next attraction that I've got a picture of, and I very little pictures from this era because I was really into taking pictures of things that were pretty, and this is not a pretty place, but it sounds dangerously.
Sounds dangerously with Drew Carey.
And I mean, it was not the best attraction, okay, but it was a cool little show, and it was like a mystery, as I recall, and they would turn out the lights completely, and you would have to imagine what was occurring, and that's the kind of imagination that I've always really liked. I like radio shows. I actually listen to TV a lot without sound. One of my traveling things I do without picture. Sorry, without sound is not as much fun.
It's not as much fun, and not your point.
Not even vaguely. So I actually do that. So I loved that part of the imagination experience.
It was fun. He was a detective, I think, trying to figure out to solve a case. And so you were kind of traveling with him and things would happen to cause the lights to go out and sound to go out and different things to happen. So you had to use all of your senses to kind of figure out what was going on. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a fun little show to go into. We went almost every time we were in the parks, we would go in to see it. So
detective, I think he was a bumbling police officer or
he was
security guard or something. It was
he was not.
We were doing detective work. It was fun.
Yeah, it was definitely funny. A lot of humor.
Okay, so then the other two that she mentioned when I came up with this was Alien Extraterrestrial, terrible name to pronounce, and Stitch.
Yes.
And they were good
one that I loved and one that I hated.
And it's not the which way you would think.
No, because I like Stitch, but I did not enjoy the Stitch attraction. I did really love Alien Encounter. It was.
Who doesn't like hot dog breath?
It was. I didn't.
It smelled a little bit like it did in our house, not when I had hot dogs.
It was gross.
Brings back memories of Stitch. And the jumping on your shoulder thing was cool.
Well, I think for the Alien attraction, the difference too was that the cast members were very involved in that. There were cast members that were in the room with you. There were cast members, if I remember right, upstairs over us, that things happened to them. And so it was really a very, it had a lot of pieces to it. It had, again, when you came in, it had the 2 openings. So you had the pre-shows that you kind of went through before you came in. And I just remember the first time we experienced it, my daughter and I both were terrified. I mean, it was frightening. And but then it was fun for us. Of course, our daughter was older. If our daughter had been younger, it would have been really, really bad. I always told parents that just little kids can't do this, but it was so much fun for us, and so we enjoyed it.
And we're back from taking a little break. I'm wearing the same shirt she's wearing. I thought we'd just get away with it, but it's totally opposite color. I was wearing black, now she's wearing white. She's gonna be the good guy now. I'm gonna be the bad guy.
I'm sorry,
good guy, bad guy. Okay, so we were talking about magic versus imagination, and we talked about the rides that and attractions that kind of spark your imagination. But I feel like most of the things that they go for, their imagination isn't such a big part of it. Like, for example, Pandora. I go to Pandora and I don't need my imagination almost, because I look up and it seems real. What do you think? Is that, am I mistaking imagination and magic? Or
I do. I think so, just because I think it takes imagination. You have to be willing to suspend your disbelief and allow yourself to experience the world, not as a really cool park area, but as yourself walking into this world. It's the same feeling that you get when you walk into Cars Land at Disney California Adventure. It's that same feeling that you get when you walk into Toy Story Land at Hollywood Studios, where you literally become a part of the world that you're stepping into. So you have to allow yourself to not look at it as part of a park, but to look at it as, I've just stepped into the world of Pandora.
Fair enough. I mean, sometimes I look at this and go, wow, right? How do they even do this? And then sometimes I think those things are just floating there. I've changed parts of the universe by walking into this area. The same goes a bit when I get into Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
And the problem I have with Galaxy's Edge is that it's another universe. Pandora is another universe, but the people there are supposed to be people. Like when you go to the Cantina, you'd be going and seeing people. You would hear music from people, right? Humans. When you go to Galaxy's Edge, you're going to some place that doesn't exist in reality. So when I see a bunch of people walking around tired and cranky and carrying around their little shopping bags to say Disney, the more of those I see, the less I'm into the whole kind of deal.
Well, again, I think it comes down to how willing you are to suspend your disbelief when you walk in to the space. I can say that, like, I've come into Galaxy's Edge before and just enjoyed the atmosphere and just enjoyed where I am. And then I've come into Galaxy's Edge with my data pad ready to pretend like I am on this, expedition for the Resistance, and that I'm working for Ben to get him out of the situation he's gotten himself into. And so I'm, I think you have to decide as you're going in what you're willing to ignore to become part of the experience. And for me, I think it's a little bit easier than it is for you. So
what about when you're on a ride like, well, let's go Slinky Dog Dash. A lot of people, and this is maybe your education background can help us out here, your advanced education background. A lot of people, don't like it because it looks messy. I don't know. People don't talk about it much anymore. It's funny how, one crisis to the next. Something happens.
Yeah, because there's only so much, you can say when you don't like something. That
I think everybody complains about the heat there. It's a little hotter. I'm not going to lie.
It's hot because it's a small area. You've got a lot of people packed into this small area, and there's just not a lot of shade. Not to try to quote from Dillo's Diz talking about the animal kingdom, but it's a lot of open area because they did not create a lot of naturally looking shade in this space. And I was one of these that really loved it from the very minute I walked in, because when you do suspend that disbelief and you walk into Toy Story Land and you see the footprints on the ground and you see the way the grass is growing, you feel like you have been shrunk to the size of a toy. It gives me that feeling, the size of everything around me, and including the landscaping and the way that they made the walkways and the way that they look and everything about that gives me this feeling of I am a very small person in a very large area. It makes me feel like I'm in Andy's backyard. So I love that. I love noticing those little details and the boxes and the popsicle sticks, craft sticks, all those kinds of things that you see in the area that make you feel like you're in the world of a child. So I think it's really awesome. But I understand why people didn't like it, because they're so used to the very well-groomed areas of Disney. I think some people didn't allow themselves to see, oh, this is why those bushes aren't supposed to be bushes. Those bushes are supposed to be blades of grass. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah, I wondered if kids get that. I wonder if kids see, the really bushy looking things that are supposed to be grass and go, oh, I'm small. Because the adults didn't get that.
Yeah.
It took them a while.
Yeah.
The picture I put up on the screen is my favorite imagination point, because on the way it Slinky Dog Dash goes up and up, there's points there where if you just look and you focus on just above people's heads, you feel like you're flying.
Gives you that
and this
feeling
picture gives me that feeling,
like you're like a spring is moving, like you get that up and down feeling.
Yeah, but I get the feeling of flying, like I'm actually being projected into the air, because you're going up so fast,
right,
that you don't see the ground anymore. I like that. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about some opinions we have, and maybe some opinions that were changed because of things after the last time we decided we would have a show and talk about opinions. It's the nature of the business, right? And we don't put out this show fast enough for this. So we'll be back. And we're back. Well, last time we tried to do Two Figments Worth, we posited on some things about Genie Plus.
Oh, yes. We did.
We apparently didn't pay attention to certain other podcasts that were in their ending days. They got this right and we got it wrong. I believed, seemingly, possibly incorrectly, that it would work just like FastPass used to work, where you would get as many of these as you could get and you just keep going.
Well, that's the way MaxPass worked, right? Too.
That's the way MaxPass worked, which is really going to be killing the people there. But it seems like from some of the previews that you'll only be able to get each ride once.
It's hard to say because we don't know for sure, but that's the way it's looking.
That will definitely change my opinion on how that whole thing works. So let's not talk too much about that today. We'll come back to it when we actually get it. I'm sad they don't have it ready for the 50th yet. We're headed there in 2 days. Still not going to be there. Guess it's going to be just the good old times.
Right.
Which is okay.
That's the plan.
Rise of the Resistance seems to be much better. Nobody's complaining about that right now. They complained about the first day.
Right.
The hordes were there. It's going to be terrible.
We'll see if we're able to get Remy. We'll see if we're going to be able to get a reservation for Remy.
I have not heard anybody complaining about that.
I haven't yet. Not yet, no.
I mean, I obviously work and try to put out videos of us doing other things, but
well, and things have been kind of crazy and getting ready for the trip. So we're a little bit behind of things that we normally are. But again, I think I said it before, we just have to sort of wait to see how it's going to pan out and what exactly it's going to be. And again, I'm seeing benefits still to it for certain times, but maybe not for every visit. So
yeah, it'll because my thought had been, to recap, if I could use it just like Fast Pass, it would be just as good on a slow day as on a busy day.
Right.
But if it's only one ride,
right.
Maybe it's as good, but it's a different sort of good. It's a good if you want to pack a day in fast.
Right.
I mean, $15 is $15 when there's one of you or two of you, but when you're 5 or 6 of you, that's a much different equation.
Yeah, like I said,
but then again, kids don't want to ride 7 times in a row necessarily. They want to move on to the next thing.
It's according.
All right. Okay, so the other thing we talked about, we want to talk about is Enchanted and Harmonious. Just
Enchantment.
Briefly. Enchantment.
Yes,
I did that right yesterday, and she did it wrong. I think I cut that out though. We already talked a little bit about how it the concept of how you are the magic and stuff. But now I just want to talk about the quality and how we felt when we watched it. I mean, we watched it on video, so that doesn't really count tremendously.
Now this is another one of those opinions that I really feel like I need to see in person before I can really say, because we talked about how fireworks don't necessarily translate very well through video, and so it's hard to say. I was a little disappointed in Enchantment. I was very disappointed in Harmonious. But again, I say that saying just watching them on a spotty video, not really seeing them in person. Our friend Justin Monorail talked about how great Harmonious was in person, that it's really an in-person show to see. And so I had said at the time, I may feel differently about it when I see it in person. And then at the same for Enchantment, I may feel differently. My hopes are not as high because I've heard people that were in person for both of those shows say a lot of the same reasons why I wasn't super excited about it. Not necessarily getting the feels, the transitions not being incredibly smooth, the music not really meeting those expectations, the shows not exactly having in them what you would expect, not a lot of Epcot tie-in to Harmonious, not a lot of 50th anniversary tie-in to Enchantment. So those are some of the same things I'm hearing from other people, or some of the ways that I felt just with the cursory view that we had of them. But I feel like I really can't say until I see them in person.
And I'm so bummed. We watched them with friends online. They did the Dillos Diz did a viewing party on Sunday night, and it was the people who did it. Apparently, the whole thing that the chat was all about was these people that stood up right in front of the person.
Oh no!
Just right at the last minute, people on shoulders and things.
Oh no!
My pet peeve.
And I get it. I understand why they do it, but it is frustrating. And again, I don't mind it as much when you're in the crowd and if you have left space in front of yourself, that sometimes people will take that space and like, okay,
this
left
is
that
the thing
space.
You have to learn.
That's what you do. But it is hard when you're on those front row when you've waited for hours, and then parents will just sort of like set children not just in front of you but on top of you basically and say let them their child, let them stand here. And it's just sort of that sense of like, okay, it's like personal space issues is the hard part for me.
Sorry, I'm not being creepy, but if I don't stand this close to you, I promise someone else is going to stand this close to you.
That was pre-COVID. That was just my personal space, even pre-COVID. It's just, don't need people like standing on my toes when I've been waiting for hours. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see them in person, to experience them. Right now, what we're hoping we'll do is we'll maybe vlog every day while we're down there and post a quick message. And there's some talk
Definitely
about possibly live streaming Harmonious and commenting live on it. I don't know. We'll see.
Definitely going to be doing some Instagram stories and things while we're there. So if you follow us on Instagram, kind of pay attention to our Disney Pick a Day. We'll be doing some stories and things like we did last time.
If you've discovered this vlog and podcast much later than our trip in October 2021, it's already there.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it again in the next episode. So, you'll hear it.
Okay. So yes, those are what's the big things coming up next week. We're going to see them. We're going to at least photograph them. I'll at least go to the fireworks. All right. So that's what's going to happen next week. Hopefully we'll get to see both the shows. We'll see.
I figure you will for sure see them both. I'm still dealing with some health issues, and so I don't know that I'll make it for the late shows, or if I may just go just for the late shows. We'll kind of have to see how I'm doing each day to see what I'll be able to do. But I have a feeling you'll be there for both.
Luckily, on this trip, we're going to Boo Bash on Friday night, and it's almost the end of our trip. So. Not like it was the first day of our trip and then we just suffered the rest of it. We did that once.
Yeah.
You get really tired.
We've done everything once probably, but yeah.
All right. So let's do one little discussion here of a past memory. Speaking of the Boo Bash, speaking of this time of year.
My favorite time of year.
Do you have any memories you want to share about?
You're going to ask me about Not So Scary, aren't you? Oh, I love Not So Scary so much. I can't even begin to explain how much I loved Not So Scary. I was never a big Halloween person growing up. We didn't really do Halloween a lot in my household. And so I have always been kind of a wimp when it comes to haunted houses or scary movies, horror movies. I like spooky, I like mystery, but I've never been excited about horror or those kinds of things. But for some reason, I feel such an affinity and love Not So Scary time in the Magic Kingdom so very much. There's something about the fall colors. I love the fall colors. I love the decorations. I love the pumpkins. I love the spooky and not scary. I love the fun that it invokes. And the shows during Not So Scary were always my very favorite. It's my favorite parade. It was my favorite fireworks. And the music and the decorations and the Haunted Mansion is my favorite attraction in all of the parks. And they make it extra spooky on Not So Scary nights with a little bit of fog and some extra costuming and some characters that just come out during Not So Scary. So it makes the Haunted Mansion even more special. The parade with the Headless Horseman, when you have there's Carlotta. Liz is putting up a picture of Carlotta. She spends some time with people in front of the Haunted Mansion, and she's so funny and she's so sweet and just will crack you up and just takes time individually with guests as they come past. And so it's such a neat experience to have these characters that you don't see normally during the year. I love the grave diggers and the shovels and the way that they dance. The ballroom dancers that come through on the parade are just ethereal in the way that they look and how they dance. You've got the bride, which they added that last year, that comes through on sort of a Segway. So it looks like she's floating. And so that's incredible. I love this, that the song that goes along with the Not So Scary parade, I can listen to over and over and over and over again, and I never get tired of it. Even the ridiculous chicken part that Lewis loves so much.
The ridiculous chicken part.
We'll have to say that's
Love
my
it.
least favorite Not So Scary moment, and you love it so much. But
Absolutely love every minute of the chicken.
And so there's just so much to it, and I love it so much, and it's why we were so excited to still go to Boo Bash, to even maybe just get a little tiny bit of that night, watching the kids in their costumes and trick-or-treating, and just, I mean, the Not So Scary to me is just my favorite night of the year, pretty much, whenever we go, whether we go in September or if we go in October. Last year we went, or I'm sorry, the year before last, we went on Halloween. So we've actually been there on Halloween night before now. And so again, it's a lot more crowded. We went with the kids a few years ago. We took our kids during Not So Scary time, and Lewis was so kind to let me actually go twice, because he knew I'd be, our youngest granddaughter was a baby at that time, and a young toddler. And so he knew that I was going to be spending a lot of time with her, because she conked out on us before the first parade. She was exhausted almost, but she had such a great time up until that point. And so he actually got me tickets to go by myself the next night, so that I could do all the things that I love to do that I didn't get to do the first night we went, because we had the kids and I was with our youngest. And it was so great the night with the kids, because there were very few people there. And so we got to ride attractions over and over and over again. We got to do everything we wanted to do. We watched the parade twice. We watched the fireworks. We watched, I didn't even mention the Sanderson sisters. The Hocus Pocus Castle show is so great, because I always liked that movie. And so that's another thing. And so I had the opportunity the next night to go, and it was incredibly crowded. It was sold out the next night. And so I didn't get to really ride any attractions, and didn't get to do nearly, I made sure I rode the Haunted Mansion a few times, but I didn't really get to ride anything else, because it was so busy and so crowded, and it was harder to see the shows and that kind of thing. So I spent more time doing that. So it really does, Not So Scary was always sort of dependent on the crowd as to how much fun you could have riding attractions, or if you spent most of your time just checking out all the special events for the night. But I love Not So Scary so much.
Yeah, Halloween was the worst of any other time we've ever been. That was not as much fun. I mean, it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, no, it was still great, because they were still doing all the stuff then. And so you still had all of that. So that was really fun. But it was super crowded, so we couldn't ride attractions. We didn't get because we weren't going to wait for an hour to ride Space Mountain. But
we can't say we were at the last one, because I think they had one on like the 1st or 2nd of November. But the fact is, I'm expecting Boo Bash to be more like what we used to like out of the Not So Scary party in the original time. Near the end, hopefully it's not the end. Hopefully it's coming back.
Right.
Or something like it's coming back,
right.
at the very least. If they gave it a new name, like Mickey's Actually Scary
well,
Halloween Party, that'd be kind of cool.
The big difference was, like, we used to go to these special nights, like the Pirates and the Princess parties. And I'm trying to think of some of the others right now off the top of my head, and I can't remember all of them, but we used to go to those. And really the main goal of the night was to ride attractions as many times as you could. It was really more of a ticketed event that made the crowds lighter. And that was really what you were there for. There weren't as many special things happening. It was just sort of an like an e-ride night. But Not So Scary is completely different, because it has so many extra special things going on in the park along with the attractions. So
E-ride night being the original thing, which we paid like $15 to go an extra 2 or 3 hours to the park before they came up with extra magic hours.
Oh my gosh, they were so great.
I mean, it was just so ridiculous how empty the park was.
You would do the little circle with your finger to get to ride things over and over again without even having to get out of the attraction vehicle. It was amazing.
All right, so
next time, back in the good old days. Thank you, Grandma. I know is the, but seriously.
Before we reach the end of the month, we'll put out another episode. We'll talk about the fireworks we saw. We'll talk about the Boo Bash.
Yeah.
more pictures, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, that's
sometime we need to do just a not so scary episode where we just talk about not so scary, because I could talk about not so scary for hours.
that would increase our viewership by positive. All right, so maybe we'll do that. I mean, I'm not against sitting here and talking about anything. I'm against editing it for 4 hours, but I got real work to do. Let's see. So I think that's it. Hopefully we'll have real opinions on Genie Plus, maybe. Who'll see? Ratatouille. Man, it's gonna be a lot of new things in the old picture database. And hopefully not everything will be coming out. I'm having to put some things into the Throwback Thursday bucket. Just saddens me. All right. And so one thing I noticed that was back again this year that I totally missed and works perfectly for today, because we were there in late August, when they'd already put out the things. I love to see you real soon pumpkins. Those,
they are fun.
good way to go home.
See you real soon.
And we will see you real soon. Everybody who listens or watches.
Mm-hmm.
I got nothing else. You got anything else?
Nope. Bye, friends.
Bye.